Thanks for listening to Live Forever Young Radio. Most know turmeric as the tasty yellow spice that is used in curry, but it has also been used for over 5,000 years as a medicinal herb. In our 4th episode of our Exploring Herbalism series, we will be talking about turmeric and its counterpart curcumin and the multiple benefits they have to offer. Bob and Rollie discuss turmeric's role in ancient Indian Ayurvedic medicine and how you can even grow your own in your home garden. Learn how new technology is unlocking the ability to absorb and utilize turmeric, making it even more beneficial than previously thought. So sit back, relax, and get ready to live forever young.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Live Forever Young Radio. I am Bob. I'm here with Rollie.
Hey Bob.
Rollie, you have your full Lightning gear on today.
Yes.
The Tampa Bay Lightning hockey team, are they playing tonight?
No. Tonight is a night off, and they'll need it because tomorrow they're going to play Florida Panthers, and it's going to be the battle for Florida. We won it last year, but Florida looks really good this year.
Yeah, and they win
really
their first 9 games or something?
Well, the Carolina Hurricanes are 10-1, and I think the Panthers have only lost 2 or 3 games. So
they started out strong, like 8 or 9-0 before they ever lost a game.
Yes.
So, hey, go Lightning.
That's right, go Lightning. And today, on our 4th episode of Exploring Herbalism, we're going to be talking about turmeric, a really underutilized spice. And a lot of people don't really have an idea of the benefits that it can bring. But first of all, I don't know if most people know this, Bob, but turmeric and curcumin come from the same thing, but they're actually kind of 2 different things inside the world of herbalism, right?
Well, we've talked in the previous shows about bioactive compounds. So you can harvest a plant, in this case turmeric, and in the root of that plant there are bioactive compounds. Mm-hmm. And there's a class of bioactive compounds called curcuminoids.
Okay.
And curcumin is one of those curcuminoids.
All right.
And most of the curcuminoid, about 75%, that's in the turmeric root is actually curcumin.
Okay.
And so curcumin is an herb in a sense that you can use it medicinally, mm-hmm. right? But the turmeric root typically is used as a spice.
Right.
And so there's this beautiful plant that's like a leafy green plant, and it gets these reddish orange colored roots mm-hmm. that are harvested.
Right.
And then they're dried out, and you can do this yourself. You can grow turmeric yourself.
Yeah, you were saying it's actually pretty easy to grow it yourself at home.
You can actually get turmeric root from your grocery store, and if you know the right way to make the soil so it's drains but has enough water, you can then plant turmeric and grow your own. It'll grow up. The roots will spread out all in your soil, and then you can harvest it.
Yeah,
and
that's
the hardest part is you have to take the skin off of it.
Okay.
Right? You have to scrape it.
Like a tater.
Yeah.
Like a tater. We just got to do some potato peeling. But,
exactly.
But that's like the definition of easy to grow. You could go to the grocery store, find a root that you're supposed to use for something else, and throw it in the ground as long as you got the soil right. You know, I mean, you're good.
Soil in the light. It likes to be really sunny or mostly sunny.
Okay.
And then you can grow your own. You can dry it out in the sunlight, mm-hmm. cut it up into little pieces after you take the peel off the outside, mm-hmm. and cut it up into small pieces, put it out in the sunlight in a container. 4 or 5 days later, it'll be dried out, shriveled up. Or you can do it in a dehydrator, and then you can grind it in a food processor,
right? And
make a fine powder out of it.
And that's if you were big into making curry, that's what you would use to
one of the
flavor
main
the
ingredients
curry.
In curry dishes.
Right. There's a lot of veggies, and then it's like the sauce. It's actually really good. There's a place around here. I'll shout out to Natali's, some of the best curry you'll ever have. That's down here in Florida. But anyway, curry is tasty, orange. Everybody knows that turmeric is really the main component of that. But what a lot of people, like you were saying earlier, with the curcumin is actually what we want to pull out.
That's what you want to extract. It's a bioactive compound, and it's been used for over 5,000 years in mm-hmm. Ayurvedic medicine.
Oh yeah, India's on top of it when it comes to herbalism.
This is a plant that's in the ginger family, and they knew long time ago, centuries ago, that it was good for fighting inflammation. And we know from our previous show on inflammation
how bad it can be.
What it causes about 95% of all diseases.
Yeah, like we said, it's basically the root of a majority of the chronic diseases that people get when they get older, because you don't make as many antioxidants, right? That's the thing. You age, you're not making as much antioxidants. A lot of times you're not eating as well, so you're not getting a lot of good nutrition, right?
Yeah. And so your inflammation goes up as you get older. So as you were saying, it's the root of the problem. The good news is we can address the root problem with a root.
With a root.
That's it.
It couldn't be any easier.
And this is the kind of thing that we should be rooting for.
Hey, just like the lightning.
Just like rooting for the lightning.
Anyway, sorry guys. Horrible pun situation. That was a horrible pun section. Hey, but I loved it.
So as a result of this really powerful anti-inflammatory effect, it is really good for things like arthritis.
Sure.
So both rheumatoid arthritis and osteoarthritis, which is wear and tear, as opposed to rheumatoid arthritis is an autoimmune disease.
Right, I was going to say.
But we know that curcumin is really good at helping with the pain and swelling and inflammation that's related to arthritis.
Yeah, I mentioned, actually, I forget what podcast it was, but I was talking about my old piano teacher and his gnarled fingers. That's the osteo type from slamming him on the piano, you know.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Like, he was like 85 and his fingers were so gnarled.
It was wear and tear.
That's wear and tear, right? So, but anyway, I should have known about turmeric back then. I could have helped him.
That's true. And, also it also helps to modify your cholesterol. So it'll help to lower your LDL, particularly the small particle LDLs that are very caustic, and it will increase your good cholesterol, which is your HDL.
Okay.
So there are studies that show this. So that is a very good way to reduce your risk of heart disease, and it's also a very good way to reduce your risk of stroke, which is one of the neurological conditions that curcumin can benefit, which include Alzheimer's disease, CTE, which is chronic traumatic encephalopathy.
And that's actually caused from obviously damage to the head area and an inflammation that's built up from it and never really gone away.
Yes, and you also it also helps with Parkinson's disease and the prevention of strokes. Particularly, there are studies that show that people that are high risk for strokes, the curcumin offers a benefit that is neuroprotective, and it also protects your vascular system, and of course it's reducing your inflammation. And so it's very beneficial for this, and they now know actually, because there's this bioactive compound, we know that bioactive compounds can actually act to stimulate certain genes to express. So your DNA has genes that are wrapped up and encased in a sheath.
Right.
And when something pings it, it will open up an opening for the RNA to be able to copy it, right? So we now know the exact genetic pathway and metabolic pathway that's occurring when people take in curcumin. It's stimulating a particular gene that helps with this protective effect against strokes.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just ran across about over 1,000 new studies on curcumin itself.
Yes.
And how many new things that they're discovering if you can get it into the cell at a higher rate.
Yes.
How much more beneficial it is for your health. Because like we talked about in the other ones, so with herbalism, right, back in the day, you didn't have the ability to extract things and put them in perfect doses. And then these things work, but if they can't be absorbed naturally, how do you deliver them better, right?
Yeah, and a good part of the absorption is done in the small intestine. This is where it begins. And so I think that when people take any type of compound which the absorption of which is kind of dictating the efficacy. You want to make sure that your intestines are well cleansed and that your villi are very healthy. So we recommend people take a product like this with our sprouted barley seeds, which have that effect of cleansing your intestines and making sure that your villi, which absorb the nutrients, are in really good condition. And at the same time, Rollie, that same product not only cleanses your intestines, but it helps with inflammation.
Exactly.
Because there's SOD in it, right?
You read my mind.
And so now you take the curcumin, which is going to get absorbed better when you take it with the sprouted barley, and you're getting a potentiating effect on the anti-inflammatory aspects of it.
I don't think we mentioned earlier, but when you were talking about arthritis and helping lower the inflammation, that turmeric does, it's very beneficial at lowering your C-reactive protein, which we've talked about on other shows. That's the measure of inflammation in your body, right? So if you can take in something that lowers that, it's going to slow down how fast you're burning up, right? And you're aging. And so like we talked about in the other Exploring Herbalism shows, if you can stack these beneficial compounds on top of each other, you can actually multiply the effects of the antioxidant help. You get the antioxidants from the turmeric, you get the SOD from the barley, and then you get to increase your absorption, right? Because you're cleansing villi, and you can actually, there's 4,000 square foot of villi. If you actually look it up, with the little fingers that come out of the 30 feet of intestine that you have, it actually multiplies the surface area because of the villi by over 4,000. It multiplies it to 4,000 square feet. And so that's a lot of square footage that could need cleaning.
Yes, and it's the essence of health is human beings take in food by mouth, it gets digested, and then the nutrients, the bioactive compounds, and the carbohydrates and proteins and fatty acids get absorbed and utilized. So the more you can tend to the absorption of nutrients, the healthier you're going to be. And in this case, with curcumin, there's a very, very clear differentiation between the effect of taking the pills or the powder, and how much of it gets absorbed versus if it's not getting absorbed very well, the efficacy drops dramatically, and the studies show that.
So basically, the more you can get into a cell, the more it will help the body as a whole, right? Because the basis of life is the cell that we were talking about. And, some of the things that we were looking at in those studies is the other things that I don't think a lot of people might realize, like it helps with things like bone strength. It helps with things like colitis. And also, like, you wouldn't think about it, but it helps with your eyeballs. It helps with cataracts if you have cataracts,
and also it also helps to your brain, as we were talking about before. But if people are exposed to a lot of fluoride, where there's too much in your water
something
or
like
some other source, it can have a negative effect on your endocrine system. And the curcumin tends to neutralize the negative effect of the fluoride, which can create calcification on your pineal gland.
We don't need
outside of your pineal gland. You want calcite crystals in your pineal gland. That's what creates the piezoelectricity in your brain. But you don't want fluoride to create excessive
amounts
calcification.
That couldn't be good.
The curcumin protects against that, and it also is very helpful for people that have issues with PMS. So women before menopause are going to have a menstrual cycle, and they might have cramping and irritability and mood swings. And curcumin, there are studies that show that it tends to make those symptoms less.
Really? It kind of helps to regulate. Is it to help? Maybe it's helping regulate the hormones or something like that. I don't know.
It didn't say specifically in the studies I read, but it did show that there was a pronounced positive effect.
Well, that's amazing. And I think one of the last things that I heard that it helps with, which was kind of odd, but I was like, wow, was asthma. And that's probably because, isn't asthma basically inflammation?
Well, it is to some extent, and asthma also tends to come along with other issues related to your lungs, and there's an underlying inflammatory effect.
Got you. So because of the anti-inflammatory effect, it kind of helps with all these things.
And it doesn't cure asthma, but it makes the severity of it a lot less.
And that could be a big help, because sometimes people wake up in the middle of the night, they can't breathe.
Yeah, well, people can die from asthma attacks. And so it's really good to know that curcumin is going to help with that.
That's a lot of stuff.
It's a lot, and this was the fourth of our series.
Yeah, we'll have a couple more, actually.
We'll be doing a couple more, but I think that's probably it for today. So, Rollie, thanks.
Thank you, Bob. As usual, I love it. It's Friday. We're going to, like I said, every time we're going to go root for the lightning, and we're going to hope that any inflammation we run across, we can handle with our own turmeric grown from our garden.
There you go. So thank you, everyone, for watching and listening to Live Forever Young Radio. We'll see you on the next show.
Thanks for listening to Live Forever Young Radio. Check us out at liveforeveryoungradio.com.